There are two common methods for loading the hopper in the Phos room. The first one that you're going to see here is the operator opening the boxes and manually dumping the parts into the hopper. The second method that you will see for loading the hopper in the Phos room will be just to take the packages that we receive in bulk and just drive them straight into the hopper, where we will take multiple barrels and multiple loads to complete that job. Once the job has been loaded, the operator will put across the safety chain, and then they'll begin to lift the dumpster so it can dump it into the Phos barrel. Now it's up to the operator to make sure that they get all of the parts out of the hopper, and they'll do so by using a rake manually, checking with their eyes, and also feeling with their hands to make sure that there's no more miscellaneous parts in the Phos hopper. Here you can see the machine operator putting the covers back on the Phos barrel to make sure that none of the parts fall out while it's rotating or while it's transitioning from one tank to the next. The first tank that they're going to be transitioning this barrel into here is the alkaline tank. Parts will spend 10 minutes in this tank, and the purpose of this tank is to take off all the oil and residue that may be on the parts before it moves to the abrasive process of Phos. After being in the alkaline tank for 10 minutes, the barrel is going to be removed and moved on to the next step down the line, which is going to be our first city water tank. And it's going to be moved to the city water tank, and it will sit in there for approximately 1 minute. And the purpose of this city water tank is it's the first step in cleaning off the chemicals that the parts may have acquired from the alkaline tank. After sitting in the first city water rinse tank for approximately 1 minute, the operator is going to move it to the next tank in line, which is a second city water rinse. And this is just an added precaution to make sure that we're not mixing any other chemicals with the steps that are following after this second city water clean. After a minute of sitting in the second city water tank, the operator is going to move the drum to our acid tank. And the acid tank is the abrasive part of the process that helps to ensure that there is no rust or contamination on the parts before they are Phosed. The barrel will sit in the acid tank for approximately 5 minutes. After the barrel is sat in the acid tank for 5 minutes, the operator is going to move it to the next tank in line, which is another city water rinse, where it'll sit for approximately 1 minute before moving on to the next step. After sitting in the city water tank for about a minute, the operator will lift the barrel out of the city water tank and will move the tank to the next open phosphate tank. And now once it's put into the Phos tank, it'll sit in there while rotating for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, the operator will take and lift the barrel out of the Phos tank, and they will move it around to our dead rinse area. Now you'll notice that he'll lower the barrel into one of the dead rinse tanks, but he won't put it in all the way, only about halfway. And then he'll continue to spray off the barrel while letting it rotate 2 or 3 turns and continuing to rinse it off. And now this step is important because the dead rinse water is what we treat here at RIE. And this is stuff that the city does not want to have to treat, which is why we make sure that after it's been phosphated, that we rinse it off thoroughly in our dead rinse tanks. Now, after we get done with our dead rinse, we are going to move it on to the next tank in line, which is going to be our city water rinse, where just like the other city water rinses, it'll sit in there for approximately 1 minute. After the barrel's sat in the city water for approximately a minute, the operator will then put the barrel into the last step and last bin, which is going to be our Phos seal. And now, not only does this put a seal on the parts, but it also heats the parts back up before they go into the hopper, which leads to the oven. So we'll let the parts sit in here for approximately 1 minute. Now when the operator lifts up, they're going to turn the drum and take back off those caps that they had put on at the beginning of the process. Lift the drum up and over the hopper. And then once the drum is up and over the hopper, they're going to start the rotation on the drum so that it can dump the parts out into the hopper and into the oven. At the end of the oven, you'll see that the parts will come out and they'll have a white film over them, and that is a good phosphate profile. We're also making sure that none of the parts are wet, and that if they are wet, that we are blowing them off and making sure that they're dry before they move on.